Sister Lane's brother's funeral is the 6th, Saturday.
And put in there, did you say Enterprise?
I think it's not Enterprise, it's
Geneva.
Geneva. Yeah, in Geneva.
Maybe Sister Newton has probably COVID.
Yeah. But yeah, that was the last I heard. She was still in the hospital. They couldn't move her because of COVID. So
But that was last week.
last week.
Talking about Miss Newton?
Yes.
I was talking with Skeet, and she said that either she had already been moved or was being moved to a rehab in Panama City. But I haven't verified, and I haven't spoken directly with her.
I don't know about the other one, but if they're boosted and vaccinated at our facility and they're not having symptoms in 5 days, they still have to isolate, but in 5 days, they can go back.
Go back to it. And the CDC has come out with new guidelines now. The CDC has a COVID calculator that you have to do everything based on if you're the one that has tested positive, if you've been around somebody that's tested positive, stuff like that. You just go in and kind of fill out and answer the questionnaire, and it'll tell you what you should do. You still having problems, Sister Linda?
No, I'm not.
I told you to tell me.
Hey, Reverend John, be lying. You're giving the people some analysis. You're giving the people some announcements.
That's what I was waiting on.
Only 2 minutes.
Okay. But yeah, so them the announcements. We will not spiritual walk this Saturday. I have a meeting Saturday morning that we have to go to. So no spiritual walk this Saturday. With that being said, let us open up in prayer. Then we'll get back into Exodus at the 12, starting at verse 12. I think we finished at verse 11 last week. So let us pray. Dear gracious and eternal Father, we just come, Lord, thanking you just for another opportunity to serve you in spirit and truth, another opportunity to get right what we got wrong yesterday, just another opportunity to be amongst the living, Lord. And Lord, you have kept us throughout our journey throughout this day, Lord. Lord, you've kept us from danger seen and unseen. Lord, you kept us from ourselves. Lord, you kept us from the enemy. Lord, you kept us on the path that led us here to McChapel this afternoon, to the various streaming channels and on the conference line, Lord. And Lord, now that you have led us here, Lord, we ask you to be in this place with us right now, Lord. Open us up to receive what you have for us tonight, Lord. Lord, open us up to learn more of you, Lord. But more especially, Lord, open us up to get closer to you. And Lord, while we're teaching and while we're learning, continue to speak to us and through us. This we ask in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Okay. Exodus 12, verse 12. Let me do this. I'm just going to read 12 through 12 and 13 right now, and then we'll probably read some more a little bit further on down. But verse 12 says, on that same night, I will pass through Egypt and strike down every firstborn of both people and animals, and I will bring judgment on all the gods of Egypt. I am the Lord. The blood will be a sign for you on the houses where you are, and when I see the blood, I will pass you. No destructive plague will touch you when I strike Egypt. Actually, let me just read down a little bit more. This is the day you are to commemorate for generations to come. You have celebrate it as a festival to the Lord, a lasting ordinance. For 7 days you are to eat bread made without yeast. On the first day, remove the yeast from your house. for yourself, for whoever eats anything with yeast in it, from the first day through the seventh must be cut off from Israel. On the first day, hold a sacred assembly, and another on the Sabbath day. Do no work at all on these days except to prepare food for everyone to eat. That is all you may do. And that's down to verse 16. So remember last week, we kind of finished up. God told Moses, said to Moses and Aaron, kind of gave him outline of what needs to happen. Told him to tell every family to get a lamb or a goat, unblemished, a year old. Keep him for, I think it was what? I forgot already. Keep it for 3 days. 4 days. And if the family wasn't big enough for a whole goat or lamb, come in with another family and they eat together. And they must not only not boil it, but fry the goat. They must take the blood from the goat or lamb and go the width and the length of their doors. Smear it with blood. Told them to make sure the bread they cook or eat is unleavened. And when they eat, they need to eat fully clothed. Can't after you eat, you can't do like we do and get sleepy and take off your shoes and unbuckle your belt. But also told them that everything must be consumed. If nothing, if something is left over, it needs to be thrown out the next day. One thing I think we mentioned is we got to realize when we are partaking in the Lord, it's all or nothing. We can't just pick the parts of the Lord that we want and deal with as with Job. We can't take the blessings that Job got at the end when he got an increase. We all got to take the Job experience as well. Now we get to the point right here that on the Lord said on that same night, I will pass through Egypt. So he's still talking to Moses right now. Because remember, he told Moses everything what to do before he told him why. All right. And sometimes we got to realize that the Lord would guide us and lead us, but we might not know why. And I think one of the biggest problems we have on this Christian journey that we're on, sometimes we fight instead of being led. The Lord is trying to guide us, and we think it's a tug of war. We're on the other side pulling against him and not realizing he's saying, okay, if you want to keep pulling, keep pulling. I'm just going to let go of the rope. And what happens when you're pulling on one side and pulling on the other and they let go? You fall down. Wondering why we're always in a down and out state. Because we're not allowing the Lord to lead us. And a lot of times it's just as simple as because we don't know. And because we don't know where the Lord is leading us, we're hesitant to go. Especially if it's something new. Especially if it's something that's outside of our comfort zone. We outside of our normal routine. Then now we have to do something different. And when we start to do something different, it kind of messes with us because now, if it's something different, we got to think more. If it's something different, we got to do more. If we on our regular routine, it's just like going through the motion. It is just like going through the motion. And now that I think about it, I think that's one of the biggest problems with AME Church. We've been going through a routine so much, we start changing stuff, it becomes a problem. Because we can say, we can go through the call to worship. A lot of us could probably go through the call to worship without even looking. I was glad they said, let us go into the house of the Lord, my feet shall stand within the gates of Jerusalem. We probably could go through that whole thing without really thinking about it. All right? But time we make a change to the call to worship, and then they throw a new call to worship in there. Now you got to read and recite. That's a little too much. Because we're just used to it. And when the Lord, actually, when He instilled this Passover, think about it. It was something different. Even the Passover was something different. Don't boil it, fry it. Don't take nothing out of it. Cook it whole. Eat everything in it. You know, some of us gonna say, oh, I don't like the gizzards, I don't like this, I don't like that, I don't want no liver, I don't. Eat it all. And the bread, unleavened bread. You can't even put no yeast in the bread, so something different. So now we're at the point of where the Lord is telling Moses why they need to do all of this. He says, on that same night, I will pass through Egypt and strike down every firstborn of both people and animals. And I will bring judgment on all the gods of Egypt. I am the Lord. The blood will be a sign for you on the houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you. No destructive plague will touch you when I strike Egypt. On that first night, I will pass through Egypt, strike down all the firstborn, even people and animals. The poor animals didn't even have a chance because of the leader, of the person that was in charge of the land. I'll say that again. Even the poor animals didn't stand a chance because it was in charge. We got to realize our decisions sometimes have dire consequences on everybody else, on everybody that depends on us. It has consequences. Even the little poor animals that's around our house that we chose to feed, we do something crazy. They have dire consequences on them because now it's nobody to feed. The little stray dog, some that we put out some for to feed, can't do it no more because we done did something crazy and we're not there to feed. But also what the Lord was
You can't eat snakes no more.
you bless you when you sneeze no more. You get okay. I'm sorry. People about to bust a vein in their head trying to sneeze. I'm sorry. All right. Also, something else I want to bring to our attention when the firstborn of Egypt, as well as the animals. Israel, God considered Israel his firstborn. So if you won't let my firstborn go, in return, the punishment that you get, the consequences that you will face, is I'm going to take your firstborn. So watch this. We got to realize that this stuff that we have in this world is God's. And if we want to keep trying to hold on to it and not show God's people in some shape, form, or fashion, He can just take it all from us. Just plain and simple. Just plain and simple. And you notice, I didn't say give it. Notice I said share it with God's people. Because sometimes, you know, somebody asks for $1, you're really giving it. But I try to look at, I'm sharing a blessing for somebody else. I'm sharing my blessing because the Lord blessed me with it. And sometimes, you know, somebody asks for something you just happen to have it. And you be like, yeah, I got it. I think it was Fred Sanford on one of the shows. Grady came up to him asking for $20. And he said, man, you caught me at the wrong time. He said, why you ain't got it? He said, yeah, I got it. So sometimes the Lord places stuff in us to be a blessing to somebody else. Mhm. And watch this. And a lot of the times when we do that, how many times you've picked up some pants or a jacket that you hadn't worn in forever and reach in the pockets and there goes some money in it. Mhm. And it was money that was much needed at that particular time. It's because you were blessing somebody else. So the Lord is giving it back to you. So we got to realize that if we continue to be stingy to the Lord, He's just going to take it in another way. Mhm. But He also says this right here about the blood. The blood will be a sign for you on the houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you. No destructive plague will touch you when I strike Egypt. I read a couple different commentaries, and one commentary made this comment, and I tried to read some other ones to kind of see if it falls in line with what a lot of other theologians said, but they said this right here when it made reference to the blood. If an Israelite home did not believe in the power of the blood of the lamb, they could sacrifice a lamb and eat it, but they would still be visited by judgment. And I thought about that. I was like, the Bible didn't really say. It said if you did it, your home would be safe. But then I started thinking about it. Well, it didn't say, he didn't say in this that destruction will come around. He said you'll be subject to, you'll be visited by judgment. Same thing with us. We can come to church, we could pay our tithes, we could be saved, baptized, we could come to the altar, we could lay our burdens on the altar. But when we leave this altar, if we still don't believe we've healed, we're not. If we still don't believe we're saved, we're not. If we still don't believe in Him, we're still lost. And I thought about that too. We look at the disciples, and this is what I go back to when I think about it. Disciples, when they had a young boy that had the demons in him, and they tried to pray for him and pray for him and do everything they saw Jesus do, and it didn't work. And that's when the Father came and said, I brought you your disciples, and they couldn't catch, they couldn't do that. So help my unbelief. And He did it. The Lord saved the young man, and He went to the disciples. The disciples asked, why? What did we do wrong? You didn't believe. You didn't believe. So then I started thinking about something else. And looking at it, sermon Brother Rivers preached, you must have forgot who he is, forgot who I am. When the Lord raised Lazarus, even though He knew He was going to raise him, He still prayed and believed in the Father. And not only that, He believed in Himself. So watch this. When we're praying for healing for somebody, if we don't believe the Lord is going to heal them, when we're praying for them, when we're on their behalf, He's not going to heal them. Because watch this, even when we look at the disciples, they raised from the dead. You look at before even Jesus raised people from the dead, Isaiah and Elijah raised people. And it was a prayer because he believed. He believed that the Lord was going to do it. Now the Lord did the miracle. I just prayed and believed in the miracle. So sometimes the problem that we're having is we're not fully believing in what we're praying for. We're not fully believing that we see our loved one on the bed of affliction and we're praying. We don't believe our prayer, first of all. We're just praying because that's what they said we're supposed to do. We're praying that the Lord gonna heal our loved one because that's what we're supposed to do. And not have the confidence and believing that the Lord is gonna heal our loved one. If it is His will. And we have the confidence if we believe in the Lord, because remember, the Lord was going to destroy all of Israel. And Moses prayed and had a conversation with the Lord. And because Moses was faithful, Moses believed, Moses followed the Lord said, okay, I won't destroy him. So a lot of the times, so it said right there, if they didn't believe, they still were subject to judgment. And it also said this, and this is what I really want to try to find somewhere else that said. It said, if an Egyptian home did believe in the power of the blood of the lamb and made the proper Passover sacrifice, they would be spared the judgment. So I was thinking about it. I was like, if they believe and they did the sacrifice that was said, they'll be spared. So I started thinking about this, bro. I said, so what they had to do is, they had to be eavesdropping when Moses gave the information. They had to be listening to when Moses gathered the you need a water?
Yeah, that's also that.
It might be one. The rest of them are in the van, but I ain't got them out of the van. It should be one of my refrigerator in the office. Moses had to give, as we'll see a little bit later on, Moses had to go back to the leaders of Israel, to the elders, and told them what to do. So if the Egyptians did this, they had to be eavesdropping among the elders. All right. When the elders gathered, they had to come into the assembly. And not only that, watch this. The elders had to allow them to stay in there. And Moses had to go ahead and say what he had to say, put them in there. He couldn't. That man, he didn't say, "Wait, we got some eavesdroppers among us, right? We need to go over him, right?" He didn't ask, and I'm just saying that he didn't ask, why did they come here? All right. So if they heard and believed and got the instruction, it's because there was amongst the people that got the instruction. All right. So what I'm saying is this right now. When people come through that door, we might not know why they come through, but we just preach the word. And maybe, just maybe, that word we preached that day will save their lives. Matter of fact, just maybe the word we preached that day may save our lives. So we never know. We never know. Because remember, in one of the plagues, when the rain came down, the Lord gave the Egyptians a chance to put their livestock, put their workers and all of that inside. And it said those that believed were spared. So there's some Egyptians, it was probably some Egyptians at the Red Sea. It don't say it. But it was probably some Egyptians at the Red Sea because they saw the power of the Lord. And it said this right here. Additionally, the intellectual agreement with what God said about the blood was not enough. They actually had to do what God said must be done with the blood. Sometimes just knowing about, well, I ain't gonna say sometimes, just knowing about Jesus and knowing about the power of the blood is not good enough. You got to do something with the blood. You got to be willing to be dipped in the blood. You got to be willing to have the blood smeared on you. And I just think sometimes the reason why we go through some of the stuff that we go through, because we ain't smeared in the blood. We're not smeared in because, watch this, that destructive plague passed by them. But that was that. What happened when they got to the Red Sea? It was time to be smeared and believe again. That passed by them. But as we move on, when they got past the Red Sea, they started not to believe more and more because they were smeared in the blood. But even with them not smeared in the blood, the Lord still gave them an opportunity. He had them wander around in the wilderness 40 years, but he still was giving them opportunities because I just believe if they would have turned from their wicked ways, even the ones that did wrong in the beginning would have been able to get to the promised land. But they still chose to do wrong. Still chose. So we got to realize that sometimes it's our own inability to do right that's keeping us from our promised land. It's our own inability to believe in the blood and in the power that's got us in our destructive state right now. So we go on to say, and if we have any questions or anything, please chime in at any time. So we see right here, moving to where he says, no destructive plague will touch you when I strike Egypt. But let me back up to it said for him. Not only that, I got the reference this, and I will bring judgment on all the gods of Egypt. I am the Lord. Remember when Moses first came to Pharaoh? And what was Pharaoh's statement? Who is this God that I should know? That one statement, that one moment of being, I don't want to say sarcastic, but not being humble, is really what caused a lot of the stuff that happened. Because you said the Lord should know you, and you should know the Lord. So not only that, the Lord said, not only the Egyptians, I'm going to strike down all their gods because I need to let people know I am the Lord. Because evidently, as Brother River said, you must have forgot. Or better yet, you didn't even know who I was. So because you didn't know, give me this opportunity to introduce myself. So watch this. Isn't it better to be introduced to the Lord than yourself to you? Because Moses tried to introduce the Lord to him, he didn't accept it. And watch this. Somewhere along the line, and most of us in here were in church for a long time growing up. But just because we were in church, don't mean we do the Lord. Right? Just because we were in church at a young age, don't mean we do the Lord. Right? Our parents tried to introduce us to the Lord, but we didn't want to meet him. But something happened in our lives somewhere along the way, right? And the Lord really and truthfully introduced himself to us. And we went through some stuff. That's why we're sitting in the sanctuary right now. Let's just be honest. That's one of the reasons why we continue to come to church. Because we don't want to be we don't want the Lord to reintroduce himself to us.
Amen.
Right? And if we're just being honest with each other, you know, because Lord knows. Everything I have now is because the Lord blessed me. I might not have that much, but the Lord has blessed me with it. And Lord knows I don't want to stop coming and he take it. Because that means I'm not going to be where I used to be. I'm going to be even worse off. Right? Because I knew better. So, the Lord, I'm going to make sure they always know who I am. I remember the movie Remember the Titans. And it was a scene that they were calling all kind of penalties on the Titans because they wanted the White to take back over. And he got upset and he called them all in. Told them, don't worry about it. He wanted to hit or do whatever he said. I want them to remember the night they played the Titans. We remember the night the Lord passed by. And matter of fact, watch this. We remember the night the Lord blessed us. We might not know the exact day, but we remember what, and some of us remember exactly where we were when it was time to do what thus said the Lord. Because I remember when I first answered my call, when I stopped fighting, me and Sister Linda was pulling up to my mama's house. And I pulled in and I told her, I think it's time for me to answer my call. Remember that?
Yeah.
I pulled in from church on Sunday.
Thought you were crazy.
Huh?
Thought you was crazy.
Yeah. Still feel like hang But we remember. We remember. So the Lord wanted them to remember. And if we don't take nothing else out of this lesson, it's just remember this or tell somebody else you'd rather be introduced to the Lord than the Lord to introduce himself to you. Because all of us had to be reintroduced. But before he did some things to us. And truthfully, if we really want to be honest with ourselves, some church folk, the Lord is about to reintroduce himself to them now. They're about to reintroduce himself to some churches right now because they're not doing the work of the Lord. So we go on to say in verse 14 now, this day you are to commemorate for the generations to come. You shall celebrate it as a festival to the Lord, a lasting ordinance. Lasting ordinance. And believe it or not, the Jewish celebrates Passover, the festival of unleavened bread. They may not go back to Jerusalem to do it, but they still celebrate the Passover of unleavened bread. For 7 days, you are to eat bread without yeast. On the first day, remove the yeast from your house. For whoever eats anything with yeast in it from the first day through the seventh must be cut off from Israel. On the first day, hold a sacred assembly, and another one on the seventh day. Do not work at all in these days except to prepare food for everyone to eat. That is all you may do. 7 days. But before we even get to the 7 days, you must clean out all of the yeast from your house. Because I don't want you tempted to even use it itself. Now, a couple of things that we're pointing out here that in some of my studying that I saw. It was a way of cleaning the house for one. But when they talked about the leaven, when they talked about the yeast itself, what they did was every morning, because they pretty much made bread every morning, they'll take a little bit of the bread from yesterday, the leftover, and put it in the dough for that day. And you think about it, 31 days, you're using old bread, old yeast, what happens? Bacteria. It could get infected. Some theologians say it was twofold. It was for them to start new, but also to clean their bodies from any bacteria and all of that. This is what I got out of it, because me being crazy like I am, this is what I got out of it. A lot of the times, what happens? Every morning we get up, we think about yesterday. Every morning we get up, we think about the good old days. Every morning we get up, what we're doing, we're taking a little piece of that leavened bread, that little piece of that yeast, and putting it into our today. And sooner or later, if we keep on going back, every day we get up, we keep thinking about yesterday, we keep thinking about the day before, we keep thinking about the troubles and the pains we had that day. We're going to bring over to this day. And sooner or later, we're going to get to the point we don't even know what day it is. We're going to get to the point we don't even know if yesterday's pain is the day's pain and the day's pain will be tomorrow's pain. We don't know if yesterday's situation and depression will be today's situation. Because we don't even know no more. Because we've been too busy picking at stuff.
Hey, Rev.
Yes.
I had one of my officiating brothers send me something yesterday, and it says, because yesterday was history, tomorrow is a mystery. Win the day. Like win the day. Like W-I-N. Win the day. When you win the day, tomorrow will take care of itself. Do that enough days in a row, and you can accomplish almost anything. Be encouraged.
Be encouraged. And that's what it is, because if you start keeping your focus on everything in the past, how can you build for the future? Right? And you remember it coming, I think it was last Wednesday, if we so upset with this church, we want to go back to the very first church, McChapel. No step foot in it, but because that's the church I'm in them built. That's the one I want to be in. You won't be in no church right now. Because you're too busy focused on the past. And watch this. The crazy thing about it is, we pick certain things that we want to focus on in the past. Right? I'm just talking about church right now. You know, we will focus on a lot of stuff that we used to do. But let Ray come in here and take out all the air conditioners. Let Ray come in here and take out all the carpet. And take out all the lights. All right? And take the cushions out of these pews. Y'all gonna lock every door. Brother McKay, we gotta call Bishop Brad, lost his elder, you gonna say so and so. Right? And I was saying, well, I thought y'all wanted it. Y'all kept talking about how it used to be. I figured that's what y'all want. Right? So we when we do stuff like that, and remember the Lord said the only time is to look back is to see how far I brought you from. All right? You to pick anything from your past. Matter of fact, and I'm paraphrasing, he said a farmer that keeps plowing and keeps looking back is no good. But because now, not only is the road messed up behind you, it's messed up in front of you too. So he never said don't look back at the past. He didn't tell you to take stuff from your past and try to bring it to your future. Because it is where it is, and if it's something that was in your past that needs to be in your future, that means the Lord is going to take what's in your past, remold it, reshape it, and redo it, and reintroduce it in your future. But if we keep holding on, how can He give us something new? So when we look at the unleavened, He wanted them to walk in an unleavened state. He wanted them to walk in a state of each day is new. Each day is unleavened. Each day is not promised. So I can't keep saving the old stuff because I might not even get to tomorrow. I might not get to tomorrow. And a lot of us, a lot of churches, a lot of pastors, we live in the past. We try to recreate that sermon that had everybody falling. But the problem was that sermon was during the 1980s, and people were going through something in 1980 that they're not going through in 2022. So how can those in the 2022 relate to something you were saying about 1980? Or better yet, how can children today relate to different water fountains? How can people today relate to not being able to sit at a lunch counter? How can people today relate to having to get your food at the back of a restaurant? How can people relate to it? They can't. Because they thinking about it's a hookup if they get it in the back of the restaurant, because too many times that way they go to get a hookup from their friend. They don't want to come to. So how can they relate? So we keep trying to live in the past. And the problem is, we're living in the past. We ain't doing nothing in the present. And our future is shot. So that was the thing I got out of it when we talked about the unleavened bread. And to show you how important this unleavened bread was, not to having the yeast to cleanse yourself from anything old. He mentioned it in the next couple paragraphs. So watch this. I want to touch one thing, and I read that other stuff. Do not work at all on these days except to prepare food for everyone to eat. This is all you may do that day. So they were saying on the trees, all you need days of assembly. You can prepare food, but there's no work to be done. Right? All of us, me included, need to take a day of rest where you don't do nothing. Now you can prepare food for yourself. I go to the drive-thru, whichever one you want. Right? But that's it. Everybody needs a day of rest. Because think about it. And this is something, I'm talking to me now, because even Jesus took the day off. Every now and then, Jesus went away from everybody to rest. Now, he didn't rest that long a couple of times, but he even so all of us needs to take some time to ourselves. I try I try to do it on Mondays. That's why I switch my days to be back on Mondays. So I try to do it, and now it's back in. I had a whole house to myself, so I don't know what I'm doing. I can pretend like I'm resting and not get in trouble for not. As long as Sister Linda does, she gonna make me rest. But all of us need a day of rest.
Amen.
All of us. No matter what, you need a day to replenish yourself. Because if you keep going and keep going and keep going, you're not going to be good to nobody, including the Lord.
Amen.
And once again, brother, take the rest instead of let Lord give you the rest. So, back to this unleavened bread. Show you how important this was. At verse 17, it says, celebrate the festival of unleavened bread, because it was on this very day that I brought your divisions out of Egypt. Celebrate this day as a lasting ordinance for the generations to come. In the first month, you are to eat bread made without yeast from the evening of the 14th day until the evening of the 21st day. For 7 days, no yeast is to be found in your house. And anyone, whether foreigner or native born, who eats anything with yeast in it must be cut off from the community of Israel. Watch this, verse 20. Eat nothing made with yeast. Wherever you live, you must eat unleavened bread. Stop right there for a minute, because he throws something in there in verse 20. But if you notice, he's reiterating, all right? So the people were so used to not cleaning out their mixer, cleaning out their cake. They were so used to not cleaning out their cake bowl. They made cornbread every day. So instead of cleaning out the remnants from the cornbread from the day before, was still in the pan that next day. And they kept doing it. Because that was the way it rose. They didn't have flour. They didn't have all-purpose flour. So that was the way it grew. So the Lord is telling them, before we even get to that first day, you need to make sure it ain't none in the house. Nothing in the house. You know, a lot of us do spring cleaning. It's a tradition in some places. You know, when the spring comes, we do cleaning. What you doing? I'm doing my spring cleaning.
Spring clean.
But the reason why people did spring cleaning back in the old days is because during the winter, the house stayed shut up. They kept the house shut up, and not only that, they didn't have AC and central heat. They had wood heaters and all of that. So what happens when you're burning wood heaters, when you're burning wood in the house? It gets soot. So what they did was they opened up their house and cleaned it down, let fresh air in and all of that, and to clean all the soot, all the bad stuff away. Every now and then, we got to do some cleaning spiritually in our souls. Every now and then, we need to do some spring cleaning spiritually. And what that really means right here, we need to remove everything from the previous year that meant us harm. That means sometimes it's disassociated with loved ones. That means it's sometimes disassociated with items. Sometimes it's disassociated with Facebook, Instagram, and your phone because it meant you no good that year. So you could start fresh. And when I say that with loved ones and family members and friends and all that, it's not that you're being, as they say, sedity and all of it. You just let them know, look, I thank you for that chapter in my life. But I'm starting a new chapter. And I don't think you're in it. That don't mean when I see you, I ain't gonna speak to you. Because you took a part in making me a better person. So I give you thanks for that. Because if it wasn't for you giving me all, you know what? I wouldn't be stronger for it. So I thank you. So I'm gonna speak to you and I'm gonna let you, but I just can't hang out with you. If it's family members, and I hate to say it, even if it's brother and sister, I love you. I'm gonna associate with you and cookouts and all of that. I'm not hanging out with you until you make a change. Until you're to get into the circle where I'm at, I'm not leaving my circle to be where you're at. Because your circle is not holy right now. Your circle is something on a different level than I am. That don't mean we can't speak. That means I can't, call you and see how you're doing. That don't mean I'm not gonna stop praying for you. That don't mean I'm gonna not stop visiting you, especially if you're family and brothers and sisters. But I'm just not going to go to no club with you. If you want to hang out with me, you come to the church. Mm-hmm. That means if we hanging out at the family reunion and all that, yeah, you could drink, you could do all of that, but you're gonna be over there and I'm gonna be over here. And I might come and interact for a minute or two, but I'm not going to stay at the drink party all night. At 8 o'clock, I'm going back to my house, I'm going back to my hotel. I'm doing me. I can't do that no more because when I did that, it put me in a state that I didn't love myself. It had me do something that I wasn't. And the last thing I need to do now is be true. So I'm not being sedate. I'm just, I got to do this for me. And their true family and all that, respect. And so we got to realize that spiritual cleaning. And sometimes, even in our house, we need to spiritually clean our houses. And sometimes that means cleaning out some of our physical closet and our spiritual closet. Sometimes it's cleaning out the house because sometimes we're holding on to too much stuff that we can use to bless somebody else. We're holding on to clothes that we had in middle school that we think we're going to be able to get back in. Go and bless somebody else with that. Not that they might not want to wear it, but still, you're not going to wear it again. So be a blessing to somebody else. But if you notice now, he keeps mentioning the bread, unleavened bread. Keeps mentioning. And if the Lord keeps mentioning something to you, maybe it's worth paying attention to. Because he's getting them off their regular routine, he wants to keep mentioning it to them so they can't go back and say, "Oh, I forgot." Because you know how us folk is. I forgot. And watch this. Don't say how easy it is. You know, you got to raise your hand. I raise your hand. All of us has it a day or two in our life. We were going to fast from this time to that time. But how many of us, without thinking, when we're on the fast, eat something? You got to raise your hand. Eat something. You're not thinking of it. And it wasn't that you did it intentionally, right? It wasn't intentional that you did it, right?
Don't think about it to the next one.
But you don't think about it, right? But if you go to your refrigerator, if the week before, the days before your fast, right? You have somebody post everywhere. You're fasting. You're fasting on the refrigerator. You're fasting. On the couch.
No car for you go to the
You fasting, right? On your horn. You fasting, right? On your phone. Every 30 minutes you got to remind them. Say you're fasting. You're going to remember you're fasting. And the likelihood of you forgetting that fast is a little less, right? So the Lord, and I didn't dig into this that much because I wanted it to be practical. The Lord is reminding me that unleavened bread. It's important that you have this unleavened bread because I want you to start new. This festival of unleavened bread is a celebration. It's a day of newness. No matter what happened in your past, when you get to this point and you're eating this unleavened bread, you remember that the Lord saved you. When you get to this point, you remember that the Lord bless you. He goes, but watch this in verse 20. This is what I want to bring up. Because once again, the Lord knows. What he tells him in verse 20? Eat nothing made with yeast. Wherever you live, you must eat unleavened bread. Because he knew there was going to be somebody that said, well, he just said, do this in Jerusalem. Right? Since I ain't go back to Jerusalem, since since I'm still in Egypt, I ain't go back. I ain't got to eat unleavened bread. No. If you're an Israelite and you didn't have the money to travel back to the feast or the festival, wherever you are, you and your family need to observe this, right? And the other thing I thought about, right, is this right here. You put that statement in to tell them no matter where you at, you can serve the Lord, right? But I think when we look at in today's time, when we got Instagram, when we got all the various streaming channels, we got the conference line, right? You have no excuse. Wherever you at, you can get the word of God. Wherever you at, you can get church. Wherever you at, you can get Bible study. Wherever you at, you can start new. You can come into the church and leave out unleavened. You can come in full of yeast and leave out unleavened. No matter where you're at. No matter what. Then, what time I got? A couple more minutes. Verse 21. Then we'll get to this next week. Then Moses summoned all the elders of Israel and said to them, go at once and select the animal for your families and slaughter the Passover lamb. Take a bunch of hyssop, dip it into the blood in the basin, and put some of the blood on the top and both sides of your door frame. none of you shall go out of the door of your house until morning. When the Lord goes through the land to strike down the Egyptians, he will see the blood on the top and the sides of your doorframe and will pass over the doorway, and he will not permit the destroyer to enter your house and strike you down. Let's see here. Well, I'm going to start it next week. Obey these instructions as a lasting obedience for you and your descendants. When you enter the land, he will give you as he promised. Observe this ceremony. And when your children, actually, I'm going to stop right there on verse 24. But when we look at reread the 23, all Moses did was take what the Lord told him and made it plain for the people. Because remember, the Lord gave Moses more instruction than what he just told the people. All right? So sometimes we got to realize we can't tell everybody everything that the Lord has told us. But the important stuff we need to make sure they know. And he explained to them what they needed to do and how they needed to do it. All right? And the point I want to leave us with today is when the Lord gives us instructions, we need to follow the instructions as he has. Because watch this, he told them to put it up and down the door. What happened if they'll just put it on one side of the door? There would have been a world of hurt, right? On this side of the door, been a world of hurt. Because we got to realize something too, right? Your enemy sees you doing stuff, right? And will try to copy what you're doing. Your enemy will see you doing stuff and try to imitate what you're doing. And a lot of the times, the phone just cut off. A lot of the times when people are imitating what you're doing, they don't know what you're doing. And when they're imitating, they're not going to get it quite right. They're not going to get it quite right. So that's why it's so important for us to do what thus says the Lord. Because the Lord bless those that follow his commandments. When you look at that last verse, so the destroyer will pass by. A lot of us say this here because we're imitating. What do you mean? As I close, says the Lord, and we're not following the commandments. So since we know, we're just imitators. And because we're imitators, we're not spreading the blood the way we should. And because we're not spreading the blood the way the destroyer is inside, it won't let us get it. Take him out. And now that he's in, he won't let us. So the best way to do it is just stay true to God and stay true to yourself. So we thank all of y'all for joining in with us tonight. We will start at verse 24. Make a note somewhere, Sister Lynn, or somebody make a note. We'll start at verse 24. We obeyed all these commandments. Chapter 12 is a long. Chapter 12 goes all the way down from it's 51 verses in chapter 12. I think I'm going to kind of wrap some of them up in a couple of things next week. Try to get through chapter 12 and 13 so we can get to them getting ready to go to the Red Sea. So we thank you all. Lord's will, we will be here first Sunday, Communion Sunday. For those that are on the because I keep forgetting to make this announcement. If you're on the conference line, various streaming channels, as far as communion, you can go get your wafer or get your grape juice and you can commune that way. If you just want the cups and all of that, get with Real, and we will get the cups to you. Class leaders, if you don't mind, those members that we normally commune, reach out to them to make sure they still want on Sunday. Are ones that don't normally, and just ask, do they want commune? And let them know we do try. That being said, we need to do the others. Okay. We got to mail it to we'll see. I see. Well, anything else from anybody? Yeah, see me too about something too. Anniversary, you gotta keep in mind. What's that? Brother McChapel, we close it out in prayer.
Father, heaven, as we come to a close, they want to thank you, Father, for the years that heard the heart have said. And then, Father, they want to thank you for letting us be to the house of which one more time. Be able to study your word, that continue to have mercy. Have mercy upon. Yeah, Father, the one that body that the illness and sickness, just touch them in a special way. All the one that we know about, not even one about, just have mercy upon us. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. And thank y'all once again. And let me find this.